Hello, hi, hey, and welcome to my unfiltered YouTube channel where you are encouraged to be the unfiltered version of yourself. Please like, comment, and subscribe so we can be free and unleashed together. So let's get straight into it. So this video is going to be about Shirley Strawberry, which is the hot topic now since the reveal of the phone calls that she's been having with her husband, Ernesto Williams, who is locked up in jail in the Fulton County Jail in Georgia and has been for the past year pretty much. So in the summation of those phone calls, we are getting a full picture of what's been going on in Shirley Strawberry's life, unbeknownst to most people who were in her circle and unbeknownst to the public until recently when the rumor that was kind of in the air about her husband being locked up actually was confirmed by the release of these phone calls that we can hear Shirley and her husband have, and then some other issues that I'll mention later. So if you would like to tune into those videos, it's actually on the YouTube channel titled Phone Calls from Prison, which is led by some female. I'm not sure who she is, but she's actually opening up the public's eye to what can actually be revealed to the public or what the public can request. You know, we know about requesting background checks and things like that, or looking at prison criminal records and things. I think you can access that as a public, but you can also access phone calls that prisoners are having in jail. And this person, the YouTuber, is using the Freedom of Information Act that a lot of people were also unaware of, and unaware how that can be used in this case to request the phone records or the phone recordings of an inmate and whoever he's calling or she's calling. Now, I was doing some research on this Freedom of Information Act because I've noticed that a lot of bloggers have maybe not kind of got it all the way correct with what it actually is. And from my research and the summation of what I was able to comprehend from what I read, is that if you go back into why it was created, why the Freedom of Information Act was created, it was more so to make things available to the public, so that from the government's perspective, so that the public is not blindsided about some of the things that the government are doing, so they can request certain records from the federal government, given that it's not protected underneath some privacy law or things like that. So that's the initial intent of the Freedom of Information Act. However this one person is able to do it, though, I'm not sure. I would assume it's legal, because from what she's explained on her YouTube channel is that she actually had to request and I think even make payments, I'm thinking, if I remember correctly, for these phone records from prison. And so she just happened to be able to receive the phone call records of Shirley Strawberry and her husband, Ernesto Williams. So just to kind of give you a summation of what's going on with that, it's a long story. On her channel, she actually breaks down the phone conversation in little bites, so you might have to watch like 12 videos to get the full story. And there's actually 12 videos posted on her YouTube channel right now that you can actually go back and watch or listen to, because it's nothing really to watch. It's just audio tapes of their phone conversation. So give you a little background on Shirley Strawberry. I'm sure most people know, but some people may not. So I'm just going to explain, who she is. She's a TV person or a radio personality. I mean, she's been on TV too, I'm sure, but she's very well known on the radio. Her voice, she's like known as the voice of radio. She's been in the business for years on the radio, and she's on Steve Harvey's morning show, which they've been together for years, from the start of her Strawberry Letters on the show, which is like a big hit or a big segment that a lot of people tune in to listen to, and just doing some background on that, because that also relates a lot to what's happening with Shirley now. And it's a very interesting kind of ironic situation, and it's like coincidental that the person Shirley Strawberry, who serves up love advice through her strawberry letters, is now going through a strawberry letter moment. Probably most people are making the statement that this is probably the worst strawberry letter moment, especially since it's involving the person who actually created this strawberry letter segment. So actually, just in case people do not know about what the strawberry letter is and you want to kind of read in more on that, because I like to see her mindset. I like to see the mindset of people, so I like to go back. I'm actually gonna probably get that book or figure out a way to skim through it a little bit to get the gist of what the book entails. It's actually, you can go to YouTube. So she actually wrote this book after starting the strawberry letter. She wrote this book. It's titled Strawberry Letters. Let me go back to where I have so many windows open. I might have closed that one, but you can go on Amazon and you could probably type in strawberry letters and you'll see her book. She actually published that book in the early, let me go to Amazon real quick so I can on Amazon. There it is. So it's titled The Strawberry Letter. The Strawberry Letter, Real Talk, Real Advice, because bitterness isn't sexy. And so it's a 192 page book. It was published, and it says from this one it was published February 2012. And it just she created it as a motivational guide, to be inspirational and down to earth, give down to earth messages to women everywhere to get up, get out, and be the best you can be. So some of the things that the strawberry letter kind of entails are about love and relationships, the highs and the lows of dating, marriage, and breakups, family, the challenges of being a great mom, sisterhood, ways to get and give the support you need to stay sane, tips for overcoming low self-esteem, depression, finding balance, and faith and acceptance. So it's where she encourages you to love yourself in your life. And again, this is like about $14 or so, or hardcover is about $5. They have different types of books that you can get, so you can actually get that for pretty cheap. So I'm actually going to order it just so I can see what's in there, because I didn't tune in to that when she first published that. Alright, so going back to, there is actually an interview that she did in 2011, and I guess this is by NPR staff is what it says, when she actually first started sharing how she actually created Strawberry Letter. So if it was 2011 when she did this interview, and in the interview she says that 10 years ago they started that segment in Los Angeles, that means they actually started Strawberry Letter in 2001. So she says, we actually kind of decided together. We started the show locally in Los Angeles market 10 years ago. Actually, we've been together 10 years, and we wanted to do something to set our show apart from all the other morning shows that were there. So my last name was Strawberry. That is her real last name. And so they actually came up with Strawberry Letters from the Strawberry Letter 23 song. So there's a Strawberry Letter 23 song that is out that I actually came across on Google as well. So she says in this interview that they started the Strawberry Letter just to combine the two and then do an advice column on the radio with listeners writing in to get advice from us. And that's how it started. Well, she's saying that it started very slow, and just kind of grew into a life of its own, and now it's like our own little radio soap opera. Everybody tunes in to Strawberry Letters. I know I do. I listen to parts of it. I'm like, really? These are the type of stuff that's going on? So this is from Shirley herself. In this interview, she states, well, if it's a serious letter, you take it seriously. If it's a crazy, bizarre letter, you take it as seriously as you can, and then you know which is what really my job is, to get the face value of the letter and just to answer. Steve's job is to read between the lines, and if there's anything that can remotely concern comedian and that he can glean from that, he will do that. So she's going in details, and I can post a link to this interview if that serves any interest, because things work out so funny in life. We be careful of what we put out there, because later on in life you might very well be that very thing that you're putting out. So it's so ironic that Shirley Strawberry created this segment, not even knowing that years later, like this is years later for sure, later in her life, after she thought that she found the love of her life, like many people in these letters that write to her for advice and write to Steve for advice may have thought the very same thing, and for some reason they were blinded to that. And so people are just taken aback that the advice person herself would allow some of the stuff that have been revealed recently to happen. But I would say to people to not discredit Shirley for thinking that she was too naive, or maybe she was too naive, but discrediting her as a woman, because to be honest, this is just showing all of us that it could have happened to any one of us, to be honest. We can just learn from her situation, and don't be blind to some of these things these men out here are telling us, and just blindly trusting them without reasonable cause. You got to do your due diligence with checking out what these guys are saying. So to give you a gist of this, so Shirley has been married to Ernesto since 2015, so that means January, that would have been 8 years just about. And she actually says, I think somewhere I skimmed across somewhere, I didn't check to make sure that was a valid thing, but they've been together for 10. I'm sure they dated before then, before they got married. So maybe they dated 2 years before they actually got married. A lot of people got that wrong when they said that Steve actually put them together, but I think it was misinterpreted, because Steve on air actually I guess he gave his blessings in a way where he was more like supporting the relationship before she decided to get married to him. So a lot of people misconstrued that as thinking that Steve actually introduced them together. So people are trying to point the blame somewhere, like, how did Shirley end up with this man? How did Shirley end up with this no good at man? Is what people are trying to do. And the first natural thing that people like to do is to figure out who is the person to blame for this. Who's in the wrong? Who's in the right? Who's in the wrong? We always want to do the right, wrong thing. Sometimes it's not so clear as that. It's not black and white on who is right and who is wrong, because if we're being honest, we got to hold everybody accountable. Shirley has to be held accountable for maybe overlooking some things that she should have done due diligence and investigated on her own, and not being, you can be supportive as a wife, but not being naive as a wife and just accepting everything. So the whole story is her husband, Ernesto Williams, he actually got locked up last year, right after, like probably the next day is what she said in the phone call records, right after July the 4th. So I would assume July the 5th they came by and picked him up. Shirley not even having a clue from what we gathered what's going on with her husband. Why are they locking him up? She's just taking his word as face value, because she's not used to this criminal situations, all this criminal acts that he got going on. She has no clue how all that works. So she's only left to believe, the only thing she can do is left to believe what he says. And some of these criminals, they can be very, very, very convincing, and they know how to manipulate the people that they're with. So Shirley, being the Christian and believing in God and things like that, and just not even having any awareness of criminal activities as far as like how the jail proceedings go, when they what they will actually be doing before they convict someone, how long that person could be locked up. She's just taking his word. She's thinking that they got it wrong, just like he's of course saying. Any criminal would say, oh, they got it wrong, I didn't do it, because not many criminals who are really criminals are going to admit when they did something. They gonna want the court to prove it. They gotta catch them red-handed in the act in order for them to ever, and then they probably still gonna sit there and try to deny it. So it's just like an insanity to even try to believe what they're saying, because they're gonna always side on the insane way of thinking and denying what they're doing. So she's believing him, telling her that, oh, they wrong, they done did wrong, I'm gonna sue them, I'm gonna do a lawsuit against them, oh, I'm gonna be out in the next few days, they got it wrong. So yes, on the early calls that have been revealed on this YouTube channel, phones calls in prison between Shirley and her husband, you can hear, and a lot of people now, of course, we can say, oh man, Shirley, you're being so naive, but that was like a year ago when it was freshly happening. Her husband got locked up. She's trying to figure out what in the world is going on, and I'm sure she's asking him questions, and of course he's gonna deny it. And so what is she left to do? She's left to, at least probably for the first few months or so, just take what he's saying until things go on longer. She probably is going to put it together and say, hey, something really serious is going on. He probably actually did these things, because why would they have him locked up for so long? But then again, a lot of criminals, they like to play on, sometimes, and people are locked up for a long time and they very well might be innocent. So a lot of people who do wrong and they know they do wrong, they always try to use that to their advantage, because they know a lot of people know a lot of injustices are happening within the system. And so they try to use that to their benefit to get people to believe them. And I think that is exactly what he did to Shirley. And so, of course, seeing all these police brutalities and injustices that we've seen, it's very apparent that it's evident that it's happening. So she's left to believe her husband, who's using all this stuff to his advantage to get her to side on his side. But apparently it's not so. Apparently this guy has something going on. Just from his phone calls, you can hear him just not even really seeming as if he's serious about what Shirley is having to endure behind all of this. And Shirley later on in one of the late phone calls that was revealed on phone calls from prison stated that they've been married for 8 years and he has been locked up 3 times within those 8 years. And she was telling him how he needs to get his stuff together to get some of those criminal proceedings expunged from his record, because it seems like when he met Shirley, she probably found out about his criminal records from the past, and of course she probably thought, oh, those were years ago. So, and of course they're gonna play that, oh, I have changed, I'm a changed man now. And I'm sure he was feeding her the lines that some of those criminal acts on his record were not something that he did, that they wrongfully prosecuted him. They play on that storyline because they use the advantage of the injustices in the court system to their benefit, because they know people are going to side with them when they do that. And they can use it to manipulate you and have you believing that they're in the right when really they're in the wrong. And so it didn't become very apparent until these phone call records come out, and we can hear Ernesto calling. He calls some of his family, maybe his son or whoever is from his side of the family. He's having conversation with Shirley where she's, being supportive, trying to uplift him, and, using God. I don't know if anybody else, but it kind of cringed my soul when, misusing of God. I mean, God is with all of us, yes. But misusing him, I think Ernesto is using God as a way to, get Shirley to believe him. Saying, well, God's going to bless us. God's going to, using God's word to try to further manipulate her. And he knows she's a woman of faith. I'm not sure if he's a man of faith. I mean, some people probably can still be criminals and still be men. I don't know. I can't speak on any other's belief because it's only between them and God. But it just does not seem genuine from listening to those conversations that he's having with her. Shirley is sharing what's going on, and he can be heard laughing, and what and wow, like he don't have a clue. And it's like, dude, you're the reason why this is happening. How do you not even know that this is going to happen? It's not like this is the first time that this is happening to you. This is the first time that this is happening to Shirley. And she should be the one saying, wow, and what? And you should be the one saying, you know what? That's wrong. I'm sorry that I'm putting you through this. Apologizing profusely is what he should be doing, in my opinion. But for her to get on the phone and talk to him and share with him what's going on. There was one particular call when she got on there, he was pretty much laughing at what she had actually experienced that day. That was the day that she called him and told him that the police came and confiscated her truck while she was out at the beauty salon, left her without a ride, and then they did offer to take her home in the car. But of course, nobody's going to want to ride in a cop car. Like, nah, especially if you're not about that type of life. You're like, no. I'll go with someone that I know. And so that's what she did. She had the beauty person, whoever did her hair, to drop her off at her house. But how embarrassing that must be at your age, getting your car confiscated. A lot of people are getting that wrong. They said that the car was repossessed. It wasn't repossessed. It was confiscated by the court because, according to Shirley, you can hear her on one of those phone calls. She was explaining this to Ernesto, her husband, that they're using that to possibly pay back some of the victims that were victims to his fraudulent acts that he's been doing, scheming people with these, I think, credit repair, whatever thing he had going on. Apparently he was taking people money and scamming them. And so not only that, she had to move out the house. And it was later revealed, I don't know if it's actually true, but some people are coming out now saying that over the course of their marriage, Shirley lost her house that she had for years, like 17 years, and actually had to sell it. And she actually lost money from selling that house while she was with Ernesto. They've been evicted 5 times is what it's been reported online. So she has really lost a lot just by being with this man, and this serves as a lesson to us women. Like, how much are you willing to lose to just be with a man? Like, seriously? This is like where the storyline that says I can do bad all by myself resonates so very clearly. Like, literally, you can do bad all by yourself. Like, you could be living life. Like Shirley, if she didn't ever marry him, maybe if she could go back in time, I'm sure she would probably think and say, you know what? Ooh, Lord, I would have been living good if I never hooked up with this man. I would have so much money. I wouldn't have to be worrying about trying to pay no court fees. All her money going to paying for his supporting him in his criminal acts. And that's not even the end of the story. The part that really, really ticks a lot of people off is this no good man who has a wife who's trying to do her best to stand by him, even with his wrong and criminal acts and lying. He has a nerve to be cheating on her. And like you can hear in some of the phone calls, the young lady or the old lady, what lady he is calling, called Sonia, having the phone calls, and they're really admitting that they've had things going on 2 years ago. So if this was 2022, that means they must have started getting together and hooking up and doing things in 2020, which was, he would have been out. He was out of jail then. And so he out here in the streets cheating on Shirley while Shirley is here footing the bills, and this is how it works out for several of the others. Like same thing with Wendy Williams. She's working hard to make money. Her husband going out here using that money that she working hard for and pouring it out on another female, and they just living life. They just laughing while Shirley up here working very hard trying to scrape up money for an attorney to pay his attorney fees. I mean, she said in one of the phone calls that she wasn't able to even buy shoes. She needed to go to get shoes because she was saying how her knees are hurting her and she needs to get some shoes, but she's not even able to. And this no good husband gonna say, you're not able to get any shoes? Well, what's going on? Well, what are you doing with all of your money? What are you spending your money on? This crazy person. And Shirley's like, I'm spending my money on you. The court fees, like, this shows you how someone like that can just disregard what you're doing for them. He don't even have a clue, or maybe he's just playing dumb. I don't know. But the audacity, if I was paying all of your bills and you come with me and I'm telling you that I'm low on money and you acting like you don't have a clue to the reason why I would be low on money, as if I'm out here just spending my money on anything, when you know good and well I'm here spending my money on your court fees and your attorney fees and whatever fees and stuff like that, giving her last to him to where she don't even have, and he's on the phone talking to another female and they talking all this childish stuff about why do you like me, like he want this person to boost him up somehow. He wants that ego, that man ego. He wants this person to admit. So he's talking to this other female in a very, more like sexual way, more than he's more into the conversation with this female than he is with his own wife, and that is just not good. So yeah. So another part of the whole situation, beside the fact that, Shirley was seen naive at the beginning, people were trying to figure out how did she end up with this man? He doesn't even sound educated. Why did Shirley do this to herself? Why would she allow somebody like that to be in her space? She could have done so much better. That's what the opinion of people are saying. And then now, seeing that he is exposed now to be cheating because of the phone calls that we now hear between him and this other female called Sonia. And then the third thing, Shirley is heard confiding in him about a visit that she did to Steve's house when Marjorie wasn't there. She made some comments about Steve being winded and not looking himself, as far as like health wise. And then about Marjorie viewing them as the help. And so that really stirred up a lot because they were already in the limelight. There's been rumors going around for years when it comes to Steve and Marjorie's relationship. People are speculating that there's cheating going on. They'll say Steve is cheating. They'll say Marjorie is cheating. There and all types of stuff between Steve and his ex-wife. I mean, he's always had so much backlash in the public eye when it comes to his personal relationships and such. But Steve, I really commend him because we could learn a lot from this story. There's just so many lessons to be learned from this, because a lot of people were quick to think, oh, well, Steve's gonna fire her. Shirley, bye-bye, you done lost your job over this no good at man. You have some people who see it from that point. But I am so glad that Steve Harvey actually stood by his friend. Like, this is just showing you that you just don't cancel people just for what they said. And just like Shirley said in her recent apology, she said what she said. She can't take it back. It's said. And she's not going to just give a sorry and I wish I didn't say it, because she said what she said. And that's just what it is. She was confiding in her husband. It was a pillow talk, but she did apologize to causing more burden on, putting the burden on Steve Harvey and Marjorie. And she was in that recent interview, or it was actually on their morning show that she did, where she apologized. The strawberry letter segment that she normally runs on the morning show, she actually became her own strawberry letter, where she apologized to Steve. She herself, we can hear her explaining the whole ordeal between her and her husband, him being locked up and having to reach out to Steve and let him know when she needed to, because once they figured out who she was, who his wife was, and who his wife worked with, now it involves Steve, because they're going to use his name as a tagline to reach more audience, or reach, how it is in the media. And so she just felt like she was obligated to let him know. And she said it was a very hard thing to do. And so Steve and them, even though they said they knew before, they just wanted to give her a place where she can just be herself, you know, a place where she didn't have to worry about that. So they didn't try to, and you know, come up to her and tell her or ask her about it or reveal that they knew about it. They just felt, okay, we'll just wait until she's ready to tell us, type of deal. But then Shirley comes back and say that she probably wished that they would have, because it was just so hard for her to just come out with it, because it was just so much. Like, she felt like she was stupid. She felt like she was stupid because I'm sure she's thinking back to, man, I have this strawberry letter and look at me, I'm dealing with a nightmare. She said it was literally, she's living a nightmare now, going through what she's going through, and she's lost a lot. Shirley has lost a lot, but I am sure, and I would hope, I'm sure Steve and the others are going to step in and help Shirley out as much as they can. Shirley is like going on 70 years old, and that is so late to be trying to lose all your stuff. And actually, on one of the phone calls, she actually admitted some of the advice that Steve gave her. She actually talked to him after she talked with Steve about, you know, you can hear the whole thing. So what she was apologizing and saying, you can see that it's factual and true, because there was one phone call that she made after her conversation with Steve and telling him what's going on with her and her husband and him being locked up. She actually told Ernesto that Steve told her that she needs to get her stuff together so that she don't lose all the stuff that she's worked for. And Ernesto can be heard on the line as if like, what does that mean? What do you mean by that? And I hate, well, I can't say that word, but I dislike how he be like, I want to hear that part. Tell me that part. He be saying that to Shirley, and he be saying that to Sonia. We be trying to get them to say what he want them to say, or I guess control what they're saying. I don't know. It's just weird guy. But I guess he was trying to see if Shirley was just going to come out and say, hey, I'm about to get a divorce. So he thinking like, is she finna divorce me? Which right now, that's what is happening. The divorce proceedings are in progress right now. So, I mean, she has a lot of evidence on her side, because look, all these phone call records, that's why I say, I know a lot of people are probably somewhat bashing it being revealed or whatever, you know, the privacy, but actually it's actually good, because it's helping Shirley. This is helping her case. Look, this is all evidence that she can use in a court of law, and you can clearly see that she was the victim to all of his schemes, while he's on the side cackling and having him a good old joyride with another female, and she's out here, you know, busting her butt to support him. So I'm telling you. So Steve Harvey, he says that he understands, and he doesn't take it to heart what Shirley said. And he says that he doesn't really address the bloggers when they, put out these rumors about him, because it just adds fuel to the fire. So he just let them do what they do. So I really commend the fact that Steve Harvey and the rest of the radio hosts and co-hosts are actually standing behind Shirley, because who would throw away that many years of knowing a person just because of this situation with her husband, who's only been in her life for like 10 years, and she's supposed to lose all her friends, Steve Hart, her show, she's supposed to lose her job behind that. No, if anything, I feel like Shirley's going to receive more support. And just like I said, I hope that Shirley takes this and really put it all out there. Like, come out with you another book, Shirley. You can come out with your docu-series. You can come out with you can create a whole nother segment on the show. Just like he created that strawberry letter. Create something that's, something that kind of relates to this. Like, there's so many different things I would love to see another book. I would love to hear or watch a docu-series of Shirley and her life, like documenting her life story and situations like that. I would love to see her mend her relationship with her daughter, her family, you know, those things like that. Whatever it is that she's willing to reveal, because I know she's probably in a very vulnerable state. So if people choose to deal with that the way that they deal with it, she might choose to deal with it in privacy. But it might do her some good to just let it all out. You know, sometimes true therapy is in actually revealing the truth. You kind of release yourself from the guilt of feeling like you were stupid. And she used that word so many times, so I know it's like playing in her mind. You know, people are not making such nice comments about her and how she was and that, and, you know, her disregard for her own daughter over a man, you know. Yeah, I lift Shirley up in prayer, and I can see that a lot of people pretty much are standing behind her and wants to see her do good and continue to do good. So what do you guys think? Please comment below so we can chat it up together.